US 5G speeds are only about 10th in the world, behind countries like Brazil, Bulgaria, and even Vietnam. Can you imagine that? That's pretty hard to swallow for the world's top tech power, especially when the gap is this big. The UAE is averaging around 782 Mbps, the US is sitting closer to 300, and Americans are paying a lot for service that still feels unreliable. A lot of people are spending around $90 a month on premium phone plans, only to watch their phones lag in major cities, drop into patchy 5G, or show full bars with barely any real speed behind them. So how did the world's leading tech power fall this far behind on something this basic? It comes down to 5 big reasons. The first big challenge is simply how hard it is to build towers in the first place. It starts with scale. The US covers nearly 10 million square kilometers, with a population density far lower than places like South Korea or Vietnam. To cover that much ground, carriers often have to prioritize reach over speed. Think of it like a flashlight. They use a wide beam to cover as much territory as possible, while smaller countries can focus their signal in much tighter areas. This gets even worse because of the NIMBY effect, not in my backyard. In many upscale neighborhoods, residents fight tower construction for years because they see towers as ugly or intrusive. That can drag the approval process out for 2 or 3 years per tower, drive up costs, and force carriers to disguise equipment inside fake pine trees or even cacti. And here's the part most people never think about. Even if a tower exists, that still doesn't mean your service will be good. To start, there's the domestic roaming headache. Since no single carrier covers 100% of the country, driving into a dead zone often bumps users onto a partner's tower. When that happens, they're hit with tiny data caps, sometimes just a few hundred MBs, or a total cutoff. Beyond that, there's the backhaul problem, basically the invisible plumbing behind the network. The fastest speed a cell tower can deliver is only as fast as the lines connecting that tower to the internet. So even if the tower itself is modern, the connection feeding it may not be. While countries like Japan built fiber deep into their networks, many US towers still depend on old copper lines or microwave links. And unlike countries like Vietnam, which had more room to build newer systems from scratch and align them with the latest technology, the US built its network much earlier. That gave it a head start, but it also left the country stuck, upgrading an enormous aging system bit by bit while people are still relying on it every day. The race for 5G in the US has not just been a technical challenge, it has also been a huge financial and bureaucratic mess. In many countries, spectrum is managed more directly to support national rollout. In the US, it is treated more like a high-stakes business asset. Carriers have had to spend tens of billions of dollars just to secure the rights to certain frequencies, and by the time those auctions are over, a lot of money is already gone before enough towers are even built. That is how you end up with a kind of paper 5G, coverage on paper, but weaker performance in real life. Then came the second problem. The US took an awkward path early on. While many countries moved faster toward the mid-band range that gives a better balance of speed and coverage, the US spent too much time split between two extremes, one very fast but too limited in range, the other broad in reach, but far less impressive in speed. That made the rollout look big, but feel inconsistent. And just when that was already slowing things down, the aviation fight made it worse. The FCC and the FAA clashed over concerns that 5G signals could interfere with aircraft altimeters. That triggered delays, airport restrictions, and years of confusion. And by the time most planes had finally upgraded their equipment, the damage was already done. The rollout had already been slowed for years, and the lost momentum was hard to recover. The result is a fragmented 5G experience. One carrier may look great in a few downtown blocks, but 10 miles later, performance drops off fast. On paper, the coverage sounds impressive. In real life, it often feels random. Well, the American mobile market is dominated by the big three, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. With so few major players, the focus often shifts from winning a real speed war to protecting profit margins. That lack of competition hits consumers directly. Between administrative fees and local taxes that can push a bill up by 25%, people end up paying premium prices for service that rarely feels premium. The market isn't built to make service amazing, it's built to keep people locked in. And instead of real upgrades, carriers often rely on marketing gimmicks to cover the gap between expectation and reality. A classic example was AT&T's 5G-E, which was really just rebranded 4G. Today, users still have to sort through an alphabet soup of labels, 5G+, 5G UW, 5G UC, just to understand what they are actually getting. Adding to the frustration is the carrier-locked model. Most Americans buy phones on installment plans tied to one provider, which gives carriers more control over the device experience. That can mean pre-installed bloatware or even locked features like mobile hotspot access, unless users pay for a more expensive plan. And because this market is so carrier-dominated and patent costs are so high, brands like Xiaomi and Oppo have little reason to enter the US market. So consumers are pushed into a much narrower choice set, with Apple and Samsung dominating the high end. This restricted ecosystem even affects how people text. Because the US is obsessed with iMessage, it creates a digital wall between iPhone and Android users. Instead of using one smooth app for everyone, like WhatsApp or Telegram, Americans deal with blurry videos and broken group chats whenever they text someone on a different phone. It makes the US messaging experience feel like it's stuck in 2010. One of the strangest things about 5G today is that your phone may not just be competing with other phones for bandwidth. In some areas, that same tower may also be serving entire households using 5G as their home internet. Because even with better 5G, the US still runs into the same basic problem: congestion. In crowded places like airports, stadiums, and downtown areas, too many devices are trying to use the same network at once. It is like adding more lanes to a highway that is already packed. It helps, but rush hour still turns everything into a crawl. Then there is the rise of MVNOs, or virtual carriers, like Mint Mobile and Visible. These companies offer cheaper service by renting access from the big three. But there is usually a catch. During busy hours, those users are often pushed to the back of the line, so speeds can drop fast while higher-paying customers get priority. But the biggest new strain may be fixed wireless home internet. Between 2024 and 2026, carriers like T-Mobile and Verizon pushed 5G as a replacement for home broadband, and that changes the math completely. One household streaming 4K video over fixed wireless can use as much bandwidth as 30 to 40 smartphones combined. So you may be paying for premium 5G on your phone, only to have your speed collapse because someone nearby is using that same network to power their entire home. Another huge, often overlooked factor is how Americans actually use their phones. There's a deeply ingrained Wi-Fi everywhere culture where high-speed internet is expected at home, work, and even the local coffee shop. This makes mobile data feel like a secondary backup, just a bridge to get from one Wi-Fi zone to the next, rather than the main way to stay connected. Because of this, there's zero mobile-first pressure from the public. While users in other countries demand flawless 5G because it's their only option, most Americans are fine as long as their maps work and their music streams while driving. Without that urgent demand, carriers can get away with a network that's just good enough instead of cutting edge. At the end of the day, America didn't build a network to make your phone feel fast everywhere. It built one optimized for coverage maps and marketing claims. The result is a patchwork of high-speed islands rather than a reliable highway, where you pay premium prices for a signal that's just good enough to keep the ads running, but often vanishes the moment you step indoors. If you're tired of full bars that don't actually work, hit that subscribe button for simple but surprising. Drop a comment below. Have you ever traveled abroad and been shocked at how much better and cheaper the mobile data was compared to back home?